Welcome. This is Kristen Crabtree with the Lance Edwards Group. We have a special treat today. We're interviewing a new apartment champion who is here to share his experience and his story about how he closed on his first multifamily deal since working with Lance. Please help me welcome Dan Tripp.
Hi, Kristen. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you here. I'm going to start with just you filled out a survey with some facts, and I'm going to start with just a little summary so that people know what's going on. So you did close your deal. It's 3 units. You did have prior real estate experience. Your purpose for getting involved in real estate was to manage excess cash from your business. So we'll probably get into that. Your profit strategy is rehab and hold. Your property is located in Myrtle Beach, and you were located in Malden, both in South Carolina. You found the deal through direct mail. You invested about 20% of your own money in the deal and got local bank financing, and the property did not need work. You're getting about $200 profit per unit per month, and you do have the 3 units, so that's about 600. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let me put that down, get back to where I can see you. All right. So before we get started, share with me a little about your personal and professional background.
So I have my background is really in politics. I got elected to the state legislature when I was 24 years old. I served for 12 years. When I got out of the legislature in 2006, I basically, for the next 5 or 10 years, moved around the United States doing political projects. So I'm just, the political bug bit me at an early age, and it's something that I've been involved in with since. And I still, to this day, am involved in advocacy projects around the country. Primarily legislative advocacy, but I do a little bit of politics too. That is the main business that I have. I've been incorporated with my main business since 2011, and about a year and a half ago, I've had a couple really good years, and my experience levels and client success. I've generated cash that's, a year and a half ago was just sitting there. And so I went through a process of, where do I invest this money? Do I put it in the stock market? Do I put it in, real estate? Do I buy another business? What do I do with this money? I also knew on the horizon inflation was coming, so it became kind of mission critical for me to find out where to put, these funds. And, so I settled on real estate. I did a little bit with the stock market, but it just felt a little bit like Las Vegas to me. And although I like that, I've been to Vegas before. I like Texas Hold'em. I just didn't feel like I should be betting on my wife and I and our kids' future. So we decided to go real estate route. My dad was a realtor. My brother's currently a realtor, but I've never really been on the real estate side. And so I jumped in, and tell me if I'm going too deep, but when I made the decision to go down the real estate path, one of the people that I was listening to at the time said, go out and buy 10 books on real estate and just immerse yourself in it before you buy your first deal. And so I did that. And so I kind of settled on, single family residence, 3-2 single family residence in a nice neighborhood, not the biggest house on the block, but, not the worst. And so I ended up buying a couple single family homes. And, long throughout that process, I'd kind of set some goals for myself on building passive income. That's why you do real estate. And so I'd come up with kind of an internal head goal that, I want $20,000 a month in passive income. And so I did my first couple single families, and they cash flowed great. They were nice properties, didn't have to do a lot of repair or rehab. And I got to the end of that process with the first two, and I'm like, man, this is going to take me 20 years to scale this process. And so I was talking to my brother, who is a Lance Edwards graduate as well. He said, you need to read this book called Big Money in Small Apartments. And immediately the name captured me, but he told me a little bit about it. And so I went out that day and bought Lance's book, and I read through it. I mean, it's a great, easy read. And I read through it in about a day and a half, and the lights went off. I'm like, this is exactly how I scale. This is how I build I mean, it's just so much more intuitive than single families. And I love the quote that he uses about it being, single families is field estate, not real estate. With apartments, it's all about the numbers. And I have an MBA, so that made a lot of sense to me. So that's kind of where I got started. I didn't have any small apartment experience when I started Lance's program, but that kind of gets us to where I started Lance's program. So that's a little bit about my background.
That's fantastic. Okay, great. You did answer some of my questions that I have, but I'm going to go ahead and ask them in case there's anything you want to expand on.
Okay.
So just know that I know I'm duplicating some information.
Right. Okay.
So you started researching and pursuing multifamily investing because you did have this goal of $20,000 per month. Single family investment wasn't getting you there, and you started with investing in real estate because you had cash that you needed to do something with. Is there anything else you want to add to why you started researching and pursuing multifamily?
It was purely about the scalability and the quickest way to get from where I was at to $20,000 a month. I mean, it was just as simple as that. And that's why, I might have an MBA, but I'm not the smartest guy in the room. And so Lance's book just, made it very clear that his system was scalable. And small apartments conceptually are scalable. And that was, to me, the quickest way to solve for X, what I was trying to solve.
Okay. So what are you trying to solve through real estate investing?
Just to get to enough, there's a bunch of authors out there, but it's your FI number, your financial independence number. And for me, if I can bring in $20,000 a month in passive income, I don't need that much because I live pretty frugally. But, conceptually, my goal is $20,000 a month passive income. That's more than enough that I need to pay. I don't have very little debt. We live, fairly frugally. So that $20K a month is what I'm solving for. Now, as we get into this, I'll probably reset my FI number, and move it up. But that's what I'm currently digging and churning for every day to get to.
So that 20,000 a month passive, what would that do for you?
Well, I mean, Lance, as part of Lance's program, he talks about his vision board and your why. And ultimately, my why, I've got two smaller children. And, COVID in the last couple of years is really, I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes, and it's changed the dynamic on, the need to be self-sufficient, not to expect the government's going to come in and solve all your problems, because clearly they don't know how to solve problems. And so for me, my why is I'm a country boy. I grew up on the farm, and now I live in the city, and I want to get back to my roots. And so.
Okay. So having that passive income would allow you to move back to the country and take care of yourself and not.
That's my why. That's my why.
That's a good why. So it sounds like your financial situation was pretty decent before you started investing, because that's
Right.
the whole reasons. Is there anything about your financial situation that either helped you or that is motivating you to get somewhere else?
So, I mean, I'm still working full time in my business, and I'm just, the financial rewards of a developed business is, I'm not going to just walk away from that. So, but it's again, it's ordinary income. It's income that if I don't show up, it doesn't exist. And so, my strategy on, my business and my real estate is to create enough income to spin off to buy enough properties to get me to the passive. And so it's almost become a game of how frugally can I live on the business side so that I can spin off more cash to buy more properties to up the passive income. And I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but I know there's a lot of people that start real estate at the bottom. They don't have any spare cash. And fortunately, I didn't start there. Now, I started there, 10 years ago when I started my business, and it's taken me 10 years to get to the point where I have cash. But, I don't have unlimited buckets of money. So I still have to be very careful with, creating a, cash flow, make sure everything cash flows. I can't just go out and buy properties that are negative cash flowing, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. To expand on things you've already mentioned. So you were talking about, you started in politics at a really young age, 24, I think you said. And after getting out of elected office, you did a lot of advocacy. Is that still what your business is, or what are you currently growing as a business?
Yeah, my business that I'm building is an advocacy business. We work with businesses and trade associations when they have issues in the state legislature. We work with their team on the ground to, either kill a bad bill or pass a good bill. That's the main piece of what we do. A lot of times businesses and trade associations will get involved in the political sphere, and so we'll provide guidance and do advocacy, political advocacy for our clients in that regard too. So it's great business, and I've been doing it for a long time, so it's pretty natural for me to just keep doing what I'm doing.
Makes sense. So one other question of clarification. You said that you got involved in purchasing single family homes quite a while ago. You said
no, about a year and a half.
okay.
I think I bought my first rental property, single family rental property, in June of last year, June of 21. So, I don't have a lot of experience.
Okay. So how many single family did you purchase before you were introduced to rents and lands and started looking at multifamily?
So I bought 2 single families in a small office building that I'm sitting in right now. Those were the 3 acquisitions I made prior to getting involved in Lance program.
Okay. And you have the apartment that's 3 units right now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
And I actually have others, and I have more in the pipeline. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that first one. So I took Lance's program in September of 21. And I had a couple in the pipeline. I had a couple under contract. But I closed on the Myrtle Beach triplex in February. So it was about a 4.5, 5 month between starting his program to closing.
I know that my next question is, what ways were you hoping real estate investing would change your life? And I know that one of those ways is to create that passive income. and to get you to the country. Is there anything you want to expand on regarding that?
Well, I mean, I'm a competitive person. And so, I was always taught, growing up, if you do something, go all out and do it well. And, it's a fascinating business. I mean, real estate and doing the deals and building the pipelines and talking to brokers and sellers. I mean, it's just a fun thing to do. I mean, there's days, as successful as my primary business is, there's days I wish I could just do this full time. So, personal gratification, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about my company, my real estate company. And, you know, Lance talks about Operation Hope. I forget the full name of it, but what's your purpose for being in real estate? And I've been thinking a lot through that. And I've got personal reasons that we've talked about. There's monetary reasons, but I actually am on county council, county commission, others call it, here in Greenville, South Carolina. And so we hear a lot about the needs for affordable housing. I mean, with the inflation, with the high demand for housing, you've got a segment of society that can't afford, houses at the prices that they're going for today. And so, the whole affordable housing conversation going around the country, workforce housing, whatever term you use, is something that resonates with me, and I want to be part of the solution to that. And I'm not going to be the only solution, but me and other investors like me around the country, as we're doing Lance's systems, as we're doing real estate investment, it provides workforce housing for a lot of people. And so I'm trying to shape what my legacy is around real estate, and how I can do big things with real estate. So those are some of the things I'm exploring.
Okay, great. You mentioned a wife. Is she on the same page as you, especially when you started?
Yes, she is. I have two rambunctious kids that keep her busy and keep me busy. So she used to be my operations director in my business, and I know that she would like to spend more time, but we're partners in everything we do, and she doesn't always have the bandwidth to get down in the details like I do, but she's on board. She understands leverage. Both of us, one of the reasons where we're at today is because decisions we made early on as a young married couple, and that was to be debt free. We're both fans of Dave Ramsey, and so we got to the point a couple of years ago where we had paid off our mortgage, we had paid off all our debt, and we were 100% debt free. And so, the biggest hurdle we had to overcome getting into real estate was just understanding leverage, and understanding the risks and the rewards of that. And, to her credit, she understood that. I mean, she would probably be a little more rigid on being debt free than I am, but it's we both agree with that, especially on the consumer debt side. But to her credit, she understood that we needed to do, if we've got a pot of money, capital to spend in real estate, if we don't leverage it all, we've got very limited bandwidth. And I think she understood that early on, to her credit. So, I think what's happened as a result of that is, our portfolio is very, it's very conservatively leveraged. I mean, I think, if you look at our overall portfolio, including our home, we're only at about 35% leverage. But anyway, she's definitely a team player in all this.
Fantastic. What obstacles did you face when getting started?
The knowledge gap, I think, was the big thing. perfectionism. I tend to be a perfectionist. And so, a lot of times when you're a perfectionist, the biggest hurdle is just getting started. And, I tend to be, I'm a perfectionist, but I'm also a self-starter. So it's a kind of a unique mix there. But, I spent probably 6 months from November to June. Like, I had a pot of money that was sitting there burning a hole in my pocket, and I could have rushed out and bought a bunch of properties, but I spent from November of 2020 to June of 2021 just reading and looking and talking, and so that I feel like I got up to speed. I got through that first obstacle, and then the next obstacle was just putting systems in place. But I'm a can-do kind of guy, so I don't feel like I've faced any monsters that I haven't been able to conquer in this journey so far.
Okay. To this point, how has investing in real estate impacted other areas of your life?
Good question. I hadn't thought about that. For one, it's forced me to be much more focused in my other business ventures. Because I forget what the name is, at Frankincense law or something, but basically, your task will fill the time allotted, if you let it. And so, I think what it's done, well, let me back up. I think the first thing it's done is really supercharge my mindset, because that's one of the big things that Lance talks about. And that's one of the things I appreciated about Lance is he marries up real estate investing with mindset. And that's, I've always been a big fan of, self-development. I mean, for the last 30 years, I've been doing it, but I feel like something about Lance's program just helps supercharge that. And so, I'm in the office every morning, well, at least 3 or 4 times a week at 4:30 in the morning. And, I go through my vision board and, do all the routines that Lance taught us to do. And so that has helped me in other aspects of my business and my personal life to be more focused. So I think that's been the biggest impact, is just the spillover effect of mindset into other areas.
Okay, great. What did you hope would happen that hasn't?
Oh, well, I got about 3 or 4 properties that didn't go through that I'd hoped would go through. I mean, just anecdotally, I had a 20 apartment, 20. So I've had 3 big deals that I've either been under contract in or almost to contract. The first 2, were I did during, after my time, with Lance and all. I had a 9 unit under contract, and I ended up terminating that because the property was in horrible shape, when we got through with our due diligence. And then I had a 36 unit that I was under contract for, and Lance actually did a walkthrough with me on that apartment. And it was in fairly good shape. It would have passed due diligence standards, but the finances were, financial house was a house of cards, and so I had to terminate that deal. And so I learned lessons from both of those deals. And so I just got a 20 unit, pretty close to me, about 4 hours away, identified, and we had a signed letter of intent, and we were going back and forth on the contract, and they verbally agreed to everything that, we had issues in the contract. And while we were waiting for them to sign the contract and get the deliverables together, I got a call or an email from the agent, he said, we had 3 unsolicited offers over the weekend, and we're now in the highest and best situation, offer situation. And I emailed back, maybe snarkily, and said, "You've got my highest and best, and I don't, I'm not going to negotiate against myself." And so, there's deals that I would have loved to have closed on, but my deal flow is, the volume is large enough that I don't have to get tied up in knots over, 1 or 2 deals. I can't think of any. I mean, things have been going so well the last year or so, almost a year since I was in Lance program. I really can't, do anything but shout hallelujah for all the good luck that we've had. So
you mentioned having learned some lessons. Is there like a tagline or specific details that you can elaborate on regarding the lessons?
Yeah, I break the due diligence process down to financial inspection. You got to make sure the numbers add up. You got to make sure you can document all those numbers. And then you've got physical inspection. You got to make sure the place isn't falling down. You got to make sure the sewer lines are clear and the HVAC isn't going to run out on you. The roof's not going to cave in. So I break due diligence, which is such a big part of this process, down to those things. You can literally do this and get properties under contract day in, day out. It was a big deal. I mean, I remember the first time I was about to send my first contract to the broker, and I was on pins and needles. And now, excuse my crassness, but I'll send a contract like I change underwear, every day, but when you get them under contract, the more on the front end about the financial inspection and the physical inspection, and building process around those 2 things, the better off you are. That's what I've learned. In every deal that I get into, I'm getting better and better at that process. And, so I can do I've closed on the triplex in February. Then last month I closed on a duplex. I've got a duplex that is closing in the next 3 weeks or so. I have another duplex under contract. The duplex thing, I've got it down. The small, 2, 3, 4, 5 units is pretty easy. I've got good banking relationships. I've done enough. I've got enough big deals under contract that, I'm learning my processes so that, one of these days we're gonna get a big one closed. But the tagline is, you gotta get your financial inspection and your physical inspection process under control so that you can move quickly and close on the deals.
So it does sound like you've got a nice pace going now. And something you said earlier made me realize I hadn't asked this, but do you have a time goal for that $20,000 a month passive income?
Loosely 3 years, the end of 2025. That's what I have on my vision board. By the end of December 2025, we've moved to the farm. We're in our home that we've built, and so that's generally what I'm driving for. I think I can get there quicker. I usually meet my goals way in advance of when I set them, but that's generally what I'm looking for.
Okay. And what has happened in this process that has surprised you?
How easy it is if you just put your mind to it. And I've been itching to tell you this story, but you haven't given me a segue. So I'm going to take this and make it the segue. So when I read Lance's book, that was probably in late July early August of 21. And I read his book, and it was like all this great information, but I looked for, okay, what are the next steps? And I had to dig around to find out that Lance does a boot camp. I mean, he's an over marketer once you get to know him, but on the front end, he's pretty conservative on his marketing tactics. But I found out about the boot camp. I started digging into it, and so I joined that. And when you sign up, they send you the home study course. And so when I got that home study course, I had about 30 days between when I got it and when boot camp, was going to be held. And one of the things he said in the home study course was spend an hour a day, if nothing else, just an hour a day, and you will see major progress. And part of the process is going on LoopNet and Crexy and these other sites and looking for deals. Most of them are going to be way overpriced, but you're looking for deals that are kind of within the margins. But your goal is to find the brokers and start building relationships with brokers so you can get pocket listings. And that was a very theoretical concept, but I'm pretty good on the phone. I've always been good on the phone with phone sales and things like that. So I just really dug in and said, okay, an hour a day, at least an hour a day. And so I started looking at deals on Crexy and LoopNet, and I found some, and I started, Lance has a broker script, and, he really spends a lot of time in the home study course talking about just do the script, just read the script word for word if you have to. And, I don't like to sound like an automaton. So, I would read the script, but I would do it in a personalized sort of way. And my God, the first time I did that, I think the second or third broker call that I made, I ran into a broker down in Mobile, Alabama, and he had 15 or 20 duplexes that he owned himself that he wanted to owner finance. And I thought I had struck the mother lode, and, and nothing ever happened with it. But what I learned early on was that these brokers are real people. And, if you sound halfway knowledgeable, you can have a good conversation. I was talking to brokers about $1 million deals, and there's no way I could have personally, done these deals, but man, they were sending me others. And all of a sudden I had brokers talking about pocket listings. I got a pocket listing. Can I send? So all this stuff really started coming to life. And one of the goals in boot camp is to get you talking to brokers. Well, by the time I got to boot camp, I'd already talked to 10, 15, 20 brokers, and I felt super comfortable. And so, what happened was, once you get comfortable talking to brokers, all of a sudden your deal flow explodes because they're sending you deals, you're finding other deals, and I also, one of the things in the home study course is he has, the mail program. He talks a lot about direct mail, and he gives you an actual one pager that you can use. Well, by the time I got to boot camp, I'd already been mailing that piece of mail for weeks. And I actually think the triplex that I closed on was the first lead I got back from that mail that I did. It took about 3 months or 4 months for it to really, work itself out of the system. But, it's just, that's one of the major lessons I've learned is you jump in with both feet, with a good positive attitude, and literally anything is possible.
You're such an overachiever.
I told you I was competitive. Oh.
Okay. So what excites you about the future and the possibilities it holds?
Just, financial independence, and being able to I love my advocacy business. I really do. And with that business alone, I'm in the top 1% of small business in the US. I mean, just with the income that I'm generating from my business. And so I'm blessed in that regard. But, I did that business as a solopreneur for the last 11 years. And I'm in the process now of building a team around me to get what's in my head and onto paper. And that's hard. That's really hard because you have to let people be willing to fail and not do things as good as you. And so, this business is great, but to take it to the next level is going to be a lot of hard work. And at the end of the day, it's not passive. At some point in time, I'll either exit from my business, sell my business or something. But the thought of having financial independence based on passive income is just a freedom is ultimately what I'm looking for. Time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. I mean, that's ultimately what motivates me every day to get out of bed and do what I do. So that's what it's all about.
What strengths do you possess that you think may have made this endeavor easier for you?
Well, when someone asks me that, I always think about the anecdote about, so-and-so is an overnight success, but it took them 20 years to get there, so people look at you on the surface as an overnight success, when in reality, it's been the daily grind. And gosh, this emotional subject for me, because I mean, I've been at the bottom. I mean, I've been through divorce. I never went through bankruptcy, but there was a time when I didn't have two nickels to rub together. There was a time when my score was, my credit score was in the tank. And, so, I mean, less than 10 years ago, I was at the bottom looking up. And, it's just getting up every day, and not letting the bad stuff drag you down, but just, how can I improve? How can I add value to people? I mean, that's what it's all about in life. Zig Ziglar said it best. You can get anything you want in life if you'll help enough people with what they want. And so that's what I've done over the last 10 years, 11 years specifically, but what I've tried to do over the last 20 years and 30 years in my life is, how do I add value to people? And when you do that, you start snowballing goodwill and fortune and, I don't know if it's karma, I'm not into Eastern religion, but, whatever it is, the Bible talks about it, sowing and reaping. And so that's something that I believe in strongly. And I forgot what the question was, but
so your answer has been amazing. And thank you for being so genuine and opening yourself up. So I appreciate that. The question was around attributes that you have that you think made it easier for you to be successful.
Yeah. So another thing, and I gave you the Zig Ziglar quote, but I'm reminded of a Winston Churchill quote: "Never, ever, 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 ever give up." And that's what you got to do. I mean, you got to take the good with the bad, and you just got to, Lance talks a lot about the mindset. The more you invest in a positive outlook on life, the attribute of never giving up, being proactive, adding value, those are the things that distinguish the bit players from the successful players. But you can't give up. I mean, life is going to throw you curveballs, but you just got to keep going. I think those are some of the main ones I would say.
So You don't have to answer this, but I'm just curious. You're talking about curveballs now, and you talked about being at the bottom, looking up. Is there any additional like specifics or information that you want to share with us around that?
You know, I remember, and this, maybe this is TMI, but it's something that I think a lot about. Ex-wife was, high roller, and I remember, our last month together, she wanted us to go look at $1 million house. It was this stately house up on the top of a mountain in the area that I live. And, I was okay financially, but there's no way in the world, I could have afforded $1 million house. And she was, doing pretty good financially, but we went and saw it. I just kind of poo-pooed the whole idea of buying $1 million home. It made no sense whatsoever financially. And she looked down on me because of that. And she made some other real estate transactions, that kind of, were part of our breakup ultimately. So I left that situation feeling down on myself. I'm too conservative. I'm never going to be financially successful. I mean, that's during the time that, I had a couple liens against, I had a business loan that went bad because I wasn't doing well financially, and, had some of these other things. And you juxtapose that with an ex-spouse that, thinks you can go out and buy $1 million homes. I mean, it just leaves a guy doubting his ability to, do big things. And, but I felt right in the way I handled it. I felt right about going down the Dave Ramsey pathway of getting debt free and, and all that. And I've stayed true to that pathway over the last 10, 15 years. And I look back and I feel justified in the pathway that I got on, and I would not change a single thing. I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I'd gone down some of those roads. And so, no matter how dark or bleak things look at the time, you just gotta look for your North Star. You gotta think big. You gotta dream big. You gotta realize that if you just stick with it, you work hard, you build a team, you can get, even if you don't hit the North Star, Jim Collins in his book Good to Great talks about purpose, and he describes it as the North Star. And you never quite get there, but it points the direction that you should be heading every day. And it kind of, the corollary to that is shoot for the sun and you might reach the moon, So if you have that North Star and you're constantly going up, you may not get to the North Star, but you're going to get so much further than you ever thought possible. So that's kind of some color on some of those tough times that I went through.
Great. Thank you for that. So what personal characteristics either did you have then or do you still have that worked against you in the beginning?
I found in life that your biggest strengths can also be your biggest weaknesses. I'm an overachiever, I'm a quick, I make quick decisions, and that's good, but it can also be bad. I look at, I look at some decisions that I've made, nothing that's, gut wrenching or anything like that, but things I could have probably slowed down on and, been more, purposeful about. I tend to be a perfectionist. So, that's something that if I let it will hold me back. I have grown up, in my business world as kind of the Lone Ranger, because I'm a perfectionist. So that's kind of right there is the good and the bad. Perfectionist is my clients love me because I do really good work, but I'm a lone ranger because I'm a perfectionist, so that's the yin and yang of that situation. But I'm learning to build a team, and the older I get, the more I realize collaboration is important, but it'll hold you back if you let it. Those are some of the ones that jump out at me.
Great. What has changed about who you are since you started down this path?
Gosh, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but the whole mindset thing, to better clarify what I said earlier about Lance and mindset is, I've always been a big proponent of self-development. I've always been a proponent of, having positive mindset. But in the hustle and bustle of life, if you don't have kind of a process that anchors you to those things, then the ups and downs of life you shift your focus, and it's easy to lose focus. And the thing that I'm probably most appreciative, even more than the small apartment concepts, is that notion of a daily routine. It's rare. I don't always do it on Sunday mornings, because we're usually getting the kids ready for church and all that. But most of the days, I've I've got it right here. This is 30, 20, 30 pages of goodness. I've got personal affirmations that I give, and it's hard to see with my blurred background. I've got pictures of my family, that my kids, and what happens is every morning when I get up, it helps me emotionally stay connected to my family, because I look at some of these pictures and I just laugh. I have a picture of my son when he's 3 now, but he was 1 or 1.5 at the time, and he's wearing this big old sombrero, and he's naked as a jaybird. And my wife drew a little heart over his private parts. And I look at that picture and it just makes me laugh like crazy. And, little pictures like that. And, that kind of stuff, when you do it every day repetitively, it changes your mindset, and it anchors you to the affirmations that you're talking about, or the concepts that you're thinking about and looking at. And, I've probably had 30 iterations of this vision board. Lance talks about putting it on a big poster board. I have it in a PowerPoint deck, and I can easily make changes, add pictures, add pages. And 5-6 times a week I'm in here, and that anchors me through the good and the bad. So what it's done is, again, it's just supercharged my mindset. In what I'm realizing, I'm seeing the benefits of that in the real estate side. I'm seeing the benefits in my home. I'm seeing the benefits in my advocacy business. It just, that mindset just changes your outlook on life. And so that's been a huge benefit to doing this.
Fantastic. I know this is going a long time. I only have a couple more questions, but sure, if you're okay with it.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Awesome.
We're good.
Have you discovered anything about yourself that surprised you?
I don't know if it's about me or the process. I started with a pot of money that I had allocated towards real estate investment. And I kind of had a fixed mindset about that pot. I'm based on what typical price is and all that. I'm going to be able to buy about 5 houses, and but what I found is that with smart leverage, with working hard, getting the right deals. Basically what's happening, I'm seeing, is rather than that pot of money being fixed and once it's gone, what I'm seeing is that pot starting to. Robert Allen used to talk about, fill your bathtub. You plug your bathtub and then you start filling it up, and plug all the leaks. And I feel like to a little bit of an extent, that's what's happened with this. And so now this pot of money that I started with is actually starting to replenish itself. And, I'm seeing soldiers and somebody describes your money as a soldier that's out there working for you. I think MJ DeMarco. And I actually have children and grandchildren of those soldiers that are working for me. And it's like, it's almost similar to the notion of compound interest. That's probably what it is. And so what surprised me about this process is I kind of started with a fixed mindset, but now that abundance mindset, along with the mindset shifts in other areas, it's just becoming this ongoing pot that keeps giving. That's been one of the things that surprised me the most.
Okay. What advice? That's the last question. So before we get to that, I want you to imagine yourself 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
How has your life changed? Where are you at?
I am. That's my why. I spend a lot of time thinking about that. In fact, my why, I'd probably tear up, so I don't want to read this, but my why is structured in a way that it's happened. It's not a goal that I'm shooting for. When I read my why statement every day, it's already happened. And so it's very easy for me to imagine because I live it every day. I get on landwatch.com and I look at land and look for that perfect piece of land that I'm going to buy one day. And so in my mind, it's already happened, so I don't have to imagine that much. It's very real to me. Emotionally, obviously, but realistically, it's I'm sitting on 150 acres with my kids. I got a tractor, we can plant food, and we got a house that we've built, and kids are running around on ATVs and fishing at the pond, and maybe I got to jump from there and go do a Zoom call so I can maybe make a little income if I want to. It's this idyllic life where time is slowed down, and that's something that, that's what I get up every day to get to. And so it's very easy for me to imagine that.
What I have found about why, my own why, is that if it makes you tear up, it's see, now I'm tearing up. It's why.
Right.
If your why doesn't make you tear up,
yeah.
Why?
And when I first wrote this, it was probably 3 or 4 iterations ago, and it didn't affect me deeply. But over time, as it's become more real and I've seen the positive results that have come about, it's getting very real. So
beautiful. So on to that last question. What advice that you haven't already given do you have to offer to others?
So I'm one of the things I do a lot, I invest a lot in coaching. Lance is my real estate coach. I've got a business coach, Darren Hardy. I spent a lot of time, listening to his coaching advice. And he talks about, his time that he went and sat with a billionaire, and this billionaire was going to give him all the keys to life, success, how he got his billions of dollars. And so he said to the guy, will you just, record some of this advice and, put it on paper, or do some video recording so we'll have, information so that we can, do something with this. And so he got to the interview, and he said, were you able to, put any thoughts down and, put your thoughts on how you accomplished all this? And he said, yes, I did. He said, well, he was looking around, there's nothing around. And he said, where is it? And he reaches in his pocket and pulls out a piece of paper. It's a one piece of paper, and it's about, written, and it's about 3/4 of the way filled. And he said, this piece of paper will give you everything you need to know to replicate what I've done with my life. So to an extent, I mean, I'm no billionaire, but some of the things that we've talked about, I think, are the keys for that person that is coming into this program or wanting to get ahead. It's one, you got to take action. You got to be bold. You got to take action. You got to have a positive mindset. Every day you've got to get up and work proactively on making sure your mindset is helping you, not hindering you. And then 3, you just never, ever, 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 ever give up. If I had to encapsulate it to something, that would be those 3 things.
That's fantastic. That's a great summary. Love that. So anything else you want to add?
Gosh, I'm a talker. I'm a crier, obviously, but I'm a talker. So I can't think of anything. I mean, there's, if nothing else, thank you, Lance. Please convey my thanks to Lance for what he's doing, what he's done for me, what he's done for other people. And I would highly recommend 5 stars out of 5 for those that want to follow Lance. And, I've seen him on Zoom calls, and I've seen him up close and personal, and he really is the same person on camera that he is in person. And so I think he's somebody that you can trust and respect and follow after. And it's been a joy to have a relationship with him.
Beautiful. So with Lance Edwards, this is Kristen Crabtree. Please join us again when we interview our next department champion. If you'd like to learn how you could be our next department champion, please call our office at 281-667-3638. You're only one deal away.